Okay, we are live. My name is Allan Lengel. I'm the editor of TickledTheWire.com. It's a website on federal law enforcement news. We've been around since 2008. And my guest today is Colin Schmitt, a retired FBI agent who's done a lot of complex cases involving healthcare fraud, drug trafficking, money laundering. And he is the founder or co-founder and developer of a new software called FinAware. You want to tell us? Welcome. Thanks for taking the time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about FinAware?
Sure. So basically, for 25 years, retired from the FBI. I was doing financial crimes for approximately the last 10 to 15 years. One of the jobs I had was I was in charge of the financial crime squad out here in Southern California. And then I went back to work in financial crime cases. And I found there was a real deficit in tools to help financial investigators analyze bank records. And then as I kind of dove into this project, I'm finding that there's a complete absence of tools to help investigators identify any financial transaction records, including cryptocurrency exchange records. So
Right.
I got with Evan Paul, who's the other co-founder, and we came up with this software basically that takes sometimes days, what agents and forensic accountants were spending days and weeks on, and we get it down to hours using language learning model, basically using the latest technology that simply wasn't even available 10 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Now that it's available, we can apply this in a law enforcement setting and basically enable financial investigators to take those stacks of bank records off their desk and finally put them to use and actually go out and find some bad guys.
And when did the company actually, when was the software actually active where people could actually start using it?
So back in February, we actually had the prototype I was using it personally because I do forensic accounting on the side as well as working on this project. So I was able to start doing analysis of bank records. And then since February, it's improved dramatically and the speed has improved dramatically. So we're at a point now where we've been in production capacity, so to speak, for the last 3 months. And we have some clients that have come on board, and the feedback we're getting is phenomenal.
Now I'm going to play a little video. It's a short little video. It's 41 seconds. It'll give a little bit more of an overview, and then we can go in a little bit about who your customers are, who you hope future ones are to be. So let's play this first.
Introducing FinAware, a software solution that is revolutionizing financial data management and analysis. FinAware's proprietary artificial intelligence and large language models read and process all types of financial records, then converts them into structured data for analysis. Our processing engines handle thousands of transactions, including images, within minutes, visualizing your data in a user-friendly format. The system automatically generates balanced Excel sheets to ensure a perfect match. Sign up for a demo and start seeing deeper into financial records to save time and solve complex cases with clarity and speed.
Now this software is ideal for law enforcement, but also for fraud investigators, whether they be CPAs or whoever's doing audits. Can you talk about who your customers are at this point, or at least give us an idea what type of agencies you're dealing with?
Well, certainly, this is any investigator, forensic accountant, even a law firm that has voluminous bank records that need to be converted to a usable format so they can do an analysis. So under the research I've done, the forensic accounting field itself is going to explode in the next 10 years because the fraud, as you and I, and I'm sure you've seen in the media, is just exploding everywhere because of the complexity of financial transactions for just the common or the average American. So this was designed keeping in mind law enforcement financial investigators, because I recognized, and that was my world, that they were constantly dealing with volumes of records that would just literally sit on desks and couldn't do anything with it because they simply didn't have the time to go through there and cut and paste or take a highlighter to find that smoking gun transaction. So with that, our job here, or my objective, or the problem to be solved, is take all that data and let's have language learning. Let's have modern computing take that, synthesize it, get it to a point where they can use it, and then they can see where they need to go to get that interview or get that confession. Now, there is functionality in there for timelines. Many forensic accountants or lawyers may not necessarily need that, because they're just looking to find out or quantify what the loss is. But I've found that, especially in the FBI, where when I left, we were doing timelines using PowerPoint. This has a functionality where you can actually kind of have a holistic approach, take the data from the financial transactions, pull it down on a timeline, add your own data, and then basically print it out. And then you have a roadmap when you want to go and interview the bad guy and get that confession.
No, I'm guessing ideally, if you're getting bank records or something, you want the electronic bank records. Are those, is it still feasible to have hard copies of bank records, and how would you feed those into your system so that it can be analyzed?
So it uses the latest OCR, optical character recognition software. And so the bank record would have to be converted, if it's a hard copy, into a PDF. And then from the PDF, you just drag and drop the file into the system, and then the system will do the OCR on it, and then it'll convert it into an Excel spreadsheet, and then also visualize it with a timeline. But the software is set up, because of the technology, we can add other types of output as well to help the end user.
And in terms of, is there a scanner like thing where you can do, like we have faxes where you just feed it in and it feeds in? Is that how it would be done?
Well, generally in the FBI, for example, they have these high-speed scanners, and basically, if the bank came back with a box of records, you would feed them into the high-speed scanner, convert it into a PDF, and then basically have that electronic file, and then you would roll that over into our software. Now, most of the banks are starting to recognize that, especially law enforcement doesn't want all these pages, so they are replying to the subpoenas with PDFs of the records that have been subpoenaed.
Okay. Now, in terms, can you talk about some of the companies, or at least sort of characterize what kind of companies, whether it's federal law enforcement or banks or CPAs, or who so far has jumped in the pool with you?
So right now we have a fusion center that's on board. We have a state attorney general's office that's on board. Okay. And then we have 2 CPA forensic accounting firms that are on board. Keeping in mind that, we were in production capacity only 3 months ago, where we could actually start rolling it out and bringing in customers. We did just recently attend the International Association of Financial Crime Investigators Conference in Las Vegas. And we did have a booth there, and we got amazing feedback, including from several 3-letter agencies that are now interested and recognize. And a lot of times it comes down to the investigator doesn't know that he needed this until he has it, and then he knows he needs it.
Okay. Now, as somebody who's a fan of Shark Tank, they always ask, well, are there competitors out there, and how does your product compare?
So there is approximately 3 competitors that are, and then of that, there's only one that's really in the space with law enforcement. But the competitive advantage we have is our software is much more flexible in the records and the output. And we're also doing analysis of the records that come from cryptocurrency exchanges, which to my knowledge, nobody's doing right now. So for an investigator, financial investigator, you really don't have the whole picture because all the bad guys are starting to use crypto to be able to match that with the bank records, and none of our competitors are doing that.
As somebody who doesn't know, I have friends who have invested in crypto, but I still am trying to figure out what that world's all about. Is crypto any more difficult in evaluating than currency transactions? Is there a difference, really?
It is, because when you have a bank record, you generally have 5 basic columns or data points. You have the time, the account, the description, account number, the description, the debit, the credit, and the total. But when you're looking at crypto, because the exchanges continue to add new products, you're going to look at maybe 15 or 20 data points. And that's why it was so important for us to use language learning or modern computing to actually take that information and synthesize it into a visual timeline. So what's happening now is when agents get the return back or the data back from an exchange, it might have 5,000 or 6,000 transactions on it.
Wow.
And it's just in an Excel spreadsheet. And you can't even run a pivot table on it because of the way it's set up. It's not clean, so to speak. So what our software is doing is basically taking all that arduous process out, doing it for the investigator, so they can get right to the point and figure out where the money, where they can follow the money.
And let me ask you, in terms of your price point compared to your competitors, how is your price point in terms of affordability?
We're approximately 40 to 50% cheaper than our competitor. And then our model is on a per page. So we're not going to lock somebody into a 12-month commitment at $5,000 or $10,000 a month. They're basically paying for use. So in federal law enforcement, that can be a little challenging because, as you probably remember, you have to have everything wrapped up in a pretty ball as far as what you're buying. But we do a model where we give a certain number of pages for a price, and then if they go over that, then they would pay for more pages. So what we achieved here, in my opinion, is basically that we wanted to have that flexibility for law enforcement, because there'll be times when they don't have any bank records they need to analyze, and they don't want to be paying for something they're not using.
Now, what year did you retire from the FBI?
I retired November of 21.
21. Okay, so not that long ago. Let me ask you, even more recently, were there times where you had cases that were so daunting with just so many documents? You said, we just don't have the workers to help process, to analyze, and stuff like that. How would you say your software, in terms of you had to take manpower, woman power, how many workers you save by like one person? Like normally in a big case, you might have, I don't know what, 10 people working on a massive drug trafficking. How many people does it save in terms of employees?
So I had a healthcare fraud case, for example. It was a fentanyl pain clinic overdose case, and I ended up having, I think, 35 bank accounts, and I had boxes of records, and all of that had to be analyzed. And so it took about 9 months, and eventually the LA division couldn't support. So I ended up going to the Phoenix division and having them support the analysis. And even then, when I got back my pivot tables or my spreadsheets, it was another 3 to 4 months. So with this, we could take that data that took them 4, 5, 6 months and actually compress that to days. And I could have got all of the data in a usable format, most likely within about 5 days. And then I could have done the follow-on analysis. For example, this case was there was kickbacks as well as Medicare and Medicaid billing. Well, you can't go out and interview anybody unless you know who got the kickback. So, and basically, and then having that in front of me, then I can move. But otherwise, I was kind of just sitting around waiting and working on other things, obviously waiting for this to come in. And then I was able to go out and start interviewing patients and subjects.
Tell us about the group of people that you're involved in with this, and there's a lot of different heads involved in this. Tell us about sort of the depth in terms of developers and former law enforcement people.
So my partner, Evan Paul, or co-founder, I should say, he's a tech entrepreneur, and he's got 11 full-time developers working on this project right now as we continue to evolve it. And that was one thing our competitors, I've noticed from the markets research we're doing, is they're not updating their product. They're kind of just left it on the shelf and they're just selling what they have. Our software and our technology is using the latest ChatGPT models to make sure we're staying up to date. And then we have Andy Braun, who's a retired ASAC out of Phoenix division, FBI, who had a lot of experience with headquarters, as well as being an ASEC and understanding the nuances of law enforcement. And then we have another gentleman named James Manzi, who was also retired FBI, but he also has experience with the special forces as well as in the Army as a retired colonel. And he has a great deal of knowledge in terms of government contracting and then the strategic component of running a business. Sure. And then we have a gentleman by the name of Bill Callahan, who is a retired special agent in charge with the DEA, who has a great amount of obvious knowledge of law enforcement, as well as the ability to kind of speak the language of law enforcement to our state and local partners.
What are some of the challenges in marketing something like this? You've done shows, you've gone, tell us a little bit about that, how you've gone about marketing this.
Well, a lot of people, they don't know they need it until they need it. And I'm finding that's very common with software. I mean, if you think back when you were in, you had Microsoft Word, you had, or Word Perfect. You didn't know you needed Word until you started using Word and you figured out how bad Word Perfect was, So that's kind of the challenge is dealing with law enforcement. Say they don't know they need it until they use it. And then they're like, oh my God, this would have saved me so many hours and I could have gotten here and gotten there. So you have to kind of get over that hump of convincing them how useful the tool is. And then the other part is understanding the differing levels of sophistication. Probably financial crimes is one of the areas I'm finding has got the biggest deficit of training for local and state and federal law enforcement, because the schemes continue to evolve and continue to change. So sometimes the investigators that we're interacting with don't know what they're getting themselves into. And then once they get themselves into 10,000 page document, then basically it's like, well, I could work on this, or I could go out and actually put some hands on somebody and put somebody in jail. So it's kind of, they have to understand that this is going to get them to the point where they can be more efficient and not, and be able to do both, be able to go ahead and do the complicated case, but also be able to go out and do a quick embezzlement case, or if they're helping out their partners with some other type of violent crime.
And how difficult is it to learn this software? And you guys provide assistance in training or stuff? How does that work?
So that came from, there was a software that some law enforcement agencies are using, and I actually used it in retirement, and it took me about 9 hours to get through all the training to figure out how to format the documents, to watch all the videos. So when we designed this, I was like, look, it's got to be 30 minutes or less, because frankly, that's what a law enforcement officer's attention span is, because they're just too damn busy. Yeah. So you can get up and running within 15 minutes. The training would take maybe 30 minutes only to train a little deeper functionality. But in terms of actually getting to the point where the data is in an Excel spreadsheet where it's usable, it would take you about 15 minutes.
And in terms of local law enforcement, or sheriff's departments or big police departments like LA or Chicago, some of them sometimes look at some of these cases as too daunting, and then let's just give it to the IRS, FBI. Is this going to allow some of those local law enforcement agencies to be able to tackle some of these more difficult cases?
Absolutely, because another thing I'm finding, because being working cases in the FBI, I'm sure you remember you were in your little bubble and you really didn't know what was going on outside your bubble because you're just staring at your computer. But now that I'm seeing this, I see financial investigations are a hot potato, not in a bad way, but basically they want to pass it over and give it to the Secret Service or the FBI or IRS. And so, and sometimes those actually, I'd say all the times the investigators would want to do it, but they just simply don't have the tool to basically get it to a point where they can get the answer, the question answered on where the money is going. So to answer your question, yes, I see this as an opportunity for local law enforcement to be able to tackle these bigger cases, get it to a point where they can do their job. And frankly, my objective here is get the investigators out from behind the computer and get them out talking to people. And because that's where the rubber meets the road, and that's where you solve investigations.
And in terms of So the marketing is still and you're still developing right now. You're
Mhm.
still developing a product. You're just added crypto as. Do you foresee anything in the near future that you also need to add on for investigators to have more tools?
Yes. So I'm the product developer as well. So I'm kind of the guy that's the data guy. So I see a use for insurance billing records, especially Medicare, Medicaid. So that's a tool that we're thinking about putting out there. Basically, whatever HealthAware, I don't know what I'll call it, as well as anything that has a structured data set. There is one I'm kind of even kicking around the idea of the forensic genealogy as my basic understanding of that. That's extremely voluminous data, and it is in a structured format. And I think our technology could help those agents instead of having to do those monstrous family charts. Give them the opportunity to be able to make that a much quicker opportunity action as well.
Interesting. Is that something that, and I don't know how the privacy goes with like doing some things with like 23andMe or something like that? Is that something that people can tap into, or I'm not really sure all the privacy issues there, but
And I don't either. I'm just based upon my limited exposure to it when I was in the FBI, as far as where that goes. From what I understand, a lot of that information is available to the public because it's basically anonymized. It's just ones and O's or XYZs or whatever on a sheet of paper, and it doesn't really attach to anybody until you add more information to it.
I see. Now, the agencies that have been using the software so far, tell me what their reaction has been. Tell me what they like or don't like about it, or the feedback that they give you.
So the feedback has been basically consistent that it saved them hours and hours of time of getting information in a usable format. And then we also we're getting constant good feedback about our visualization because that gives them an opportunity to kind of triage the data to see where the hot spots are. And we're also, the people we're working with, we're also asking them to give us feedback so we can continue to refine this product to today's law enforcement.
And are there people saying, well, this is great, we love this, but we would really love it if it could do this? Are you getting that kind of
Yeah,
feedback?
specifically, we got that with one potential customer for Telegram. Apparently, Telegram is the place where people steal checks or actually trade checks and do all kinds of craziness. So we were looking into that, but then recently the head of Telegram got arrested in France. So our intel that we got from Las Vegas is now all the bad guys are moving off of Telegram and going somewhere else. So we're actually happy we didn't try to create that tool because we're understanding we want to look at structured data sets that are a little bit more static. Bank records haven't changed in 500 years. You still have debits and credits and a description and a date, and you're always going to have that one way or the other. So we're looking at data sets that don't change. For example, Medicare or Medi-Cal or Medicaid billing records, they're not going to change. You're still going to have the CPT codes, diagnostic code, the amount paid, description, and the patient, one way or the other. So, for example, but like I said, for Telegram, I saw that, and that's why I kind of told Evan to put the brakes on it because I was like, I don't think this is going to be around much longer.
I see. And how do people get a hold of you if they have some interest in your product?
So FinAware.us, FinAware.us would be the best way. We have all of our contact information is on there, as well as how to get a hold of it. Perfect, exactly. And then and if they're interested in a demo, we're not selling this. We don't have salespeople selling this. We have the people who designed it selling this. So Evan personally does the demos. I occasionally jump on there if it ends up being something that's a little bit more sophisticated in terms of their questioning, but we don't have a sales staff of, frankly, kids out of college with a marketing degree. You're looking at old dogs, and then we're the ones that are trying to push it out the door.
Okay. Well, anything else you'd like to add before we sign off here? Or we captured it all?
Well, I just want to say that the part of the motivation for doing this was I love the FBI. I had a great career. My father was a retired FBI agent, so if I can give back to law enforcement in my retirement, it's like the perfect job, you know. And being able to interact with law enforcement agencies since we started this project, that I recall that was probably my favorite part of being an FBI agent is working with local cops.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thanks so much for taking the time here. Appreciate it, and hopefully we'll talk again sometime.
Thank you, Alan. I appreciate your time.
Thanks.
All right.